Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Doombat event this week. So, as far as this week is concerned, the most relevant thing that we have going on all week is the Running of the Foxes event. This is still going on for another week. There isn't a timestamp here, I just noticed, but it is still going all the way until that reset time, basically. So a whole week to go and finish this out. This is one that you do have to keep up daily, so if you still want to get any reward from that, definitely make sure to do so. Beyond that, most things that we have going on this week is just a bunch of repeat stuff. We have Arena this weekend, so overall a really team week. It's also the week between campaigns, so there's pretty much nothing going on unless they're like sneaking a little mini update or something this week. But it just seems like it's a pretty team week overall. As far as the new troop is concerned, as far as what it does, steals a bunch of life from an enemy, so you do get to keep it for yourself, and then converts 4 yellow gems into Doom Skulls, which overall probably going to be a little bit too inconsistent. I believe this thing can be shiny, so it probably has a little bit of a higher convert once it does. But that higher convert won't be enough to really justify it. As far as its traits, it does have stealthy, so it does gain a little bit of durability while having that stealthy, as well as the Doomstorm to synergize with its ability. But for the most part, given that it doesn't have true damage on Skull, which would have been a great troop to add this to, it's just not really going to have much of a use case. It's a weird physical true damage kind of option. And of course, in most battles, especially in Ghulvania that is pretty true damage heavy, you tend to want to go all in on one or the other, generally onto true damage if you're going to be doing something like this. So overall, the fact that it's a mixed troop is going to make it very rarely ever used, and even in some of the Ghulvania restrictions that we have going on this week, you're probably still not going to be using it. So overall, just another troop for the pile in order to get Ghulvania to its 30 star. It's actually been 30 star for a while now, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, it is blocked out like many kingdoms based on its lack of deeds. And keep in mind, you very much do not want to get this thing to level 30 or beyond, really anything too high. Even 15 or 16 is probably the furthest you ever want to go, because it requires purple deed books. And of course, purple deed books are much better used on all of the purple magic kingdoms. Things like Blighted Lands, Darkstone, Karkaroth, and Silverglade over there are all the purple-based magic kingdoms that end up using the purple deed books, which are way higher priority than Ghulvania will ever be. Anyways, as far as the event key drop table is concerned, it of course is restricted to Ghulvania. With that being said, that means it is pretty skippable this week. Ghulvania, a lot of true damage, a lot of undead, unfortunately a lot of not good troops for the most part. There are very few things here that... Why am I going to undead? I said the word undead and now I'm just going to undead. Anyways, as far as what's actually in event key drop table, the things that are not include the faction troops, all of the ones from... Gosh, where to go? All of the ones from the faction of... Somewhere's in here. Where'd you go? Why can't I find the Dark Court? Why can't I find his name? There it is. All 4 faction troops from the Dark Court are not in drop table. The Undead Sentinel is also not in drop table. This is from getting insane RNG from Underspire. You can get them from the Dead End rooms. There are 6 of them there, and that is one of the 6. And I believe that is it. So everything else that you see here is indeed in drop table then. As far as things that you'd really want to go for, I would probably say if you don't have it yet, maybe try going for event keys until you get a Ghost Queen. This is a 50% mana start to all undead, and it's very rare that you're running a 4 times undead team. Though there are some niche situations in like PvP and other similar things where you'll occasionally end up bringing this out, but for the most part, not much of a use case. I would say its biggest purpose is actually for the Grey King. Grey King, really great troop for PvP. And, well, you can only use it on brown, I guess, for PvP if you're doing it for the pure color sections. But he's really good in the brown, blue, and purple pure color sections, as he gets to do true damage to essentially the entire enemy team, while also mana draining them, silencing them, and freezing them. It only does it specifically to whatever you choose as the color that you end up destroying. However, of course, if the entire enemy team is a certain color, you just keep clicking whatever that color is. So if you're using him on, let's say, like brown PvP, you can end up using him for that, end up getting the 50% mana start from the Undead troop that we just mentioned, and then you go and just hit all of them. You'll be able to hit the entire enemy team every single time, and you'll mana accumulate for yourself, so it ends up working out really well. So if you ever want something that can help win a little bit more in PvP, if you've been struggling at all, Grey King is definitely a great option for that. The biggest issue we're trying to get for him for event keys rather than diamonds, though, is you have to deal with 4 mythics from this place. So while you can event key for it this week, it is really unlikely that you're going to end up getting it. It's closer to almost a 1 in 4,000 or so. So not that great of an odds. So you're better off just waiting until you scrap together 4,000 diamonds rather than trying to scrap together 4,000 event keys, as unless you want to try getting really lucky on it, it is better just to wait. And that's the case for a lot of things these days, unless you're missing just like a ton of them. You normally just want to focus on the last one or last two that you need with diamonds, but if you're missing all of them, it could be worthwhile to try and attempt until you get like one and just hope that ends up being the good old Gray King. But I would say mostly just get Ghost Queen if you don't have it. Beyond that, everything else here is pretty skippable, just a bunch of stuff that you use ever so occasionally as filler stuff, though most of it is pretty dead content these days. Anyways, as far as the guild-related event, we do have a world event coming in between the seasons. We do have access to spell damage, which is great, because I believe the last time we had a world event, we did not have spell damage. It was just skull or something, and that was really annoying. As far as the rooms are concerned, all you have to do is choose one to not do. They all give the same amount of points, except the Crimson Bat one. But all these Doombat ones, they all give the same amount of points. However, they give increasingly more points as you keep doing them. So you keep wanting to do more of the same. So basically, just choose any one and just don't do it. For example, I might choose the Icy Doombat to not do. And as long as I just don't do the Icy Doombat, we will eventually have 4 of these be Icy Doombat, and then we just keep taking the other one. But essentially, just choose one that you're never going to do, and just don't do it. That's all you have to do. And then just take all the others, since they're all weighted evenly, but keep scaling as you keep doing more and more of the same. So just find one to not do, and you'll be good to go. And eventually, you'll just have 4 and then 1 all the way in the corner that you can just keep clicking on. Normally, you want to do the bottom one just because it's quicker to clicking. At least, I guess on console that wouldn't matter as much, but on PC and mobile, it's a lot quicker to click towards the bottom. So you'd want to get all 4 of your other ones to the ones that you don't want to do. And just keep spamming the bottom one over and over again, regardless of what it ends up turning into. So overall, pretty straightforward world event. We have a lot of spell damage for, as far as teams, I believe it's what, Ghulvania restriction? So the main thing that you want to build around, if you do have it, of course, is the trooper we were mentioning earlier. If you don't have it currently, you ideally want to try getting it with event keys this week. It's really useful for both. Actually, your teams that you'd run for both are basically the same as well. But it's very useful for both Underspire and for the current world event, is the 50% Mana Star off the Ghost Queen. Almost everything that you're going to be using in this category is Undead, and you'll be able to give a ton of them 50% Mana Star, even if you don't have some of the better options to end up doing it into. You still have some lower rarity things you could end up synergizing into. For example, Grave Knight has a full armor tier Eliminate that you can end up utilizing. Corpse Mirror, something that you might have used for some bounty hunters, especially if you're running Tagaraki Corpse Mirror. This ends up destroying a row and gets to steal much of life, so that little bit of extra board control with the life steal ends up being pretty good, as you can actually get extra turns of it from it, and even has Mana Link to go with it. Beyond that, even something as simple as this common here, he actually has a really good on-skull effect. He does both Death Mark and Freeze every single time he takes a skull, so you have a chance to kill them, as well as freezing them to make them lose their turns. So there's a few things you can kind of scrap together. Otherwise, at the higher end, you're basically just building a pure true damage team out of whatever true damage options you have, ideally focused around Gray King, as he will get you probably the farthest. The only problem with this in this game mode is there are going to be a lot of teams that might not be pure color. I'm saying that as we're up against a pure color team. Wait, are they actually all pure color? Wait. Oh, not quite, but pretty close. That is pretty close. Is that just coincidence? No, it can't be. It's like every single one of these, it's every single one except the Doombat is pure color. So yeah, this is basically set up to use Grey King. Oh, they made Grey King even more broken. But yeah, every single one of these battles is basically set up to go use yeah. Because you'll be able to get it on every single one except Doombat, if he happens to be for a color. Like this one's brown, so obviously Doombat's not green, or it's green-red, not brown. So you only get the triple hit. But yeah, Grey King will absolutely demolish this week as far as that, because you'll be hitting for 3, if not 4, because on red or green you'll be able to hit for 4, of course. So yeah, overall should be a pretty free week if you have a Grey King then, since he also gains all the extra benefit that you get from the magic metal, of course. Interesting. All right, so that's the kind of gimmick that they end up going for that. I was wondering why there was like one per each color then. So you'd most likely want to dodge one that isn't a favorable color for Grey King then. So that would be something like probably yellow, because yellow would not be, yeah, so something like the yellow one you'd probably not want to do, because you wouldn't be able to go and hit the Doombat, plus you wouldn't be able to hit with, you wouldn't be able to get your mana back to Grey King. So Grey King, it'd be good to do brown, blue, and purple, because that's all of his colors. It would also be good to do red and green, because Doombat would share the colors. So if there is a yellow one, the yellow one is the one you'd most likely want to avoid then. as that would be the one that would be least favorable to you with a Grey King build. Anyways, aside from that, don't forget, if you still need to go and do anything for the running of the Foxes event, as far as objectives that you want to hit, you definitely want to get yourself one of the Fox Glove, one of the armor if you want to pick it up, 7 of the pet, which costs 700 total, until you have enough to get the golden pet. And as far as ones that haven't returned, so far the golden pets have never returned, but you'll be able to get the one that actually gives stats. That one will be available in the future. However, the golden one has never returned so far. Fox Glove will be available in a couple months, but it's great to have now. It's a really interesting troop. We were messing around with it some, and yeah, good double convert. Works really good with the triple damage Entangle guy, and has really good elemental synergy. You could use it on Beast too, but I feel like its elemental synergy is way better than its overall Beast synergy, especially with Mirage Queen. It keeps creating a bunch of green, so you can just synergize it directly into it and get a lot of damage. So overall, really been enjoying it. Pretty nice troop. Honestly, they've been doing really good on the Legends lately for these seasonal events. And of course, this comes back every single year, so you don't need to necessarily worry about it if you're tight on points. I would say pet is highest priority, then troop, then armor, then if you want to scrap together for power orb, which I probably will, you can end up doing that as well. But don't forget, this is the final week, and it is a daily that you have to keep up with every single day if you want to go and maintain all the value for that. One other thing to mention, of course, this is currently the time between seasons. So if we click over here, of course, there is currently not a campaign. But do keep in mind, even though there is no campaign, the PvP season is still going strong. As the current state of the game, these two do not actually coincide with each other. As you can see right here, it's ending in 48 days and 28 hours. So they currently do not coincide whatsoever as far as their timer. And unlike the campaigns that have a week downtime, which we are currently in that 1 week downtime, the PvP seasons have no downtime at all. So they just keep going and going and going. As soon as one ends, the next one just immediately begins. So it doesn't have like the whole downtime mechanic of campaigns. Not sure if they'll ever synergize them so that they do coincide at the same time, kind of like how it is right now. Or, you know, if it was to be coincided to what it is right now. But as it currently stands, that is not the case. Anyways, beyond that, other things we have going on this week. This Tuesday, we have ourselves the faction event for Dark Court. Wednesday, we're getting one of those troops that give a bunch of buff to one of the other troops. I forget which one it is, but I don't believe it was anything too relevant. Thursday, we have ourselves the class event for Deathknight. Deathknight's interesting in that it's a pretty bad hero class. However, it does get to 4 times Death Mark when it dies. So there are some teams where you put it in first slot to deliberately let it die, or even kill it with your own things like Sacrifice or Princess Elspeth or something similar, in order to immediately 4 times Death Mark the opposing team, which of course works really good with Death Mark boost ratio, or even just in general to immediately Death Mark the enemy and hope that you get some RNG kills. Very extremely situational and very luck-based, probably the second most luck-based hero class, only really outdone by the Thief hero class with how much that could then end up being RNG'd like crazy. But it does have the ability to turn 1 4 times Death Mark the opposing team. It just requires you to sacrifice your hero immediately to end up doing so. So very niche, but can end up being useful. And this Friday, we have the Arena event, which basically means we have no event this weekend. Aside from that, as far as Soulforge is concerned, pretty skippable as far as troops, so there is a weapon you probably want to pick up. As far as troops, nothing really worthwhile here. Just a bunch of stuff that's either pretty mid or below. Phoenicia back in the day may have been good, but of course we have Diamantina, we have Stellarix, we have Stellarix again, and Stellarix for the 4th time. So unfortunately, there's really no room for Phoenicia these days, as pretty much everything outpaces it in every regard that it ever does. It was an issue that was always going to happen to it eventually, but Phoenicia is pretty useless these days. She went from like one of the top 10 mythics to probably like almost D tier in current state of game. C tier, D tier, somewhere around there. It's just not ideal for her these days, given that her role is just done so much better by so many other things. Anyways, as far as weapons to pick up, Doomscythe is definitely the one you want to pick up. It would also be pretty useful in the events. I believe you can run this in both events, if I'm not mistaken. And by both, I mean the World Event and Underspire. It deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, and then ends up converting all yellows to Doomskulls. So if you're going more of a physical damage build rather than true damage, if you don't have enough to actually build a proper true damage team, this could definitely be your way to go as far as hero weapon is concerned. It will be very useful for getting the events done throughout the week. Beyond that, mostly just a bunch of knick-knack stuff if you want to end up picking it up for completionist sake, but not really must-have. I think there was one double gem creating weapon. Acts of Leeching, I think it was. Yeah, this one. Which has Ghulvania synergy, so once again, you can end up doing that since you're going to be restricted to a Ghulvania team anyways. You just have to make sure you do Deathknight hero class if you want to get the 4 times boost ratio. from having a full team of Ghulvania, so do be mindful of that you will have to use Deathknight if you go down that weapon route. But yeah, if you're going for anyone, it's definitely going to be the Doomed, whatever it's called. Doom Scythe. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I was literally on it like seconds ago. There it is. Doom Scythe. I'm just like trying to double check its name because it's actually the Scythe category, but it's also called a Scythe, which is confusing because some of them aren't called even remotely the same as what their weapon type is. But anyways. And aside from that, I feel like I'm forgetting one other big thing to mention. No, there normally would be, but this week honestly has pretty much nothing going on. But tonight we'll go and mess around with all the teams as we kind of have been in these times now. We'll just go and do all the teams during the video, all which will be in the pinned comment if you want to go and check them later. We'll have every single one for the entire week. A lot of it should be pretty samey, though, just because Ghulvania, or, the double Ghulvania restriction. The only problem with having a world event while, Underspire existing is the teams you run are almost one-to-one identical for both the two game modes. The only real big difference is you might use Grey King a little bit less in Underspire, just because you'll get a little bit less value from it. But just the fact that he's already so strong, you're probably still going to be using him. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Don't forget to finish out the Fox event, as is pretty much the only time-sensitive and biggest thing that we have going on throughout the rest of this week. And as soon as this week finished, we'll be in campaign, what is that, 20? Gosh, that is so high now. I still remember back in, what was it, 2020? Yeah, I think it was 2020 was when we finally had Season 1 of these. And gosh, we're already up to like 20 now. That is so many. But anyways, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.